G'day everyone and welcome back to the Cyber Minutes podcast. My name is Max and I'm joined today by Flynn as always. Now we've got some cool topics today. Well, not so cool because it's because of a massive data breach. Basically every single American has lost their social security number. Now, if you don't know what a social security number is, it's the same as like a TFN here, but it carries a lot more weight. So it's kind of like a unique identifier for an American person. And so you usually don't want to give it away what your number is. And it looks like the Americans have lost nearly all of theirs. So that's interesting, as well as the LadyBird search engine, which is a completely new search engine, which isn't dependent on Chromium, if you're familiar with that, or any kind of other search engines. This is completely its own thing. So let's get right into it. Flynn, how did Americans lose their social security numbers?
Yeah, so basically, as far as I'm aware, we don't know who was actually lost the social security numbers. It was just a major data broker.
Yep.
That may be different from the time of recording because we're recording a bit in advance at the moment. But so basically, as you said, social security number, it carries a bit more weight than tax file number. That's our best comparison because, fun fact, in Australia, we don't really have a unique identifier. There's not really an equivalent. Like there's a tax file number, but you don't need to get your tax file number. You're given the social security number at birth. Yep. It is you. It's a really important thing they have, and if you lose it, it can be problematic. The information consists of 2.7 billion records.
Jesus.
That's more records than Americans that exist. So, as I said, it's basically like everyone. It's what's weird is the media sort of has covered it, but not enough from what I've seen. So like, there's been a breach, but I don't remember the exact tool, but I saw some guys online. There is some sort of website out there that lets you check and freeze your social security number.
Yep.
Or your credit or something, whatever's associated with it.
Yep.
So if there's any Americans in our audience, I'd recommend doing that now and monitoring it closely because it's very, very likely to happen.
Exactly.
If not now, probably in the near future.
Yep. And so the people who lost the data was National Public Data. They were the people who lost it. And they said that a third-party bad actor was trying to hack into their data in late December 2023, with leaks happening in April 2024. So, they're saying that they attempted to, but it looks like they successfully did.
National Public Data was the guys we were talking about last week, right?
I believe so.
That had the plain text passwords.
Yes. Yeah, so that's a double whammy there. So, not too great for them.
Yeah, I'm actually not too sure if that was the same breach or not. I might have to look into that more. But yeah, regardless, as we said, it's just pretty appalling. We sound like a broken record that it seems that the next worst data breach is happening every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thankfully for us, we don't have social security numbers, so it's not as affected to Australians. But,
and the websites you can go to check if your social security number was impacted are npdbreach.com as well as npd.pentester.com. And those websites they'll let you know if your social security number was stolen. So check them out if you want to check. And it kind of puts America in a weird position because clearly this is not something you want to happen. So I mean, if this is to do with the plain text passwords that were also existed on, I think it was on the website's front end. It's seriously a bad outcome for them in terms of a lot of things in terms of identity access because they're not having any proper form of 2FA. Logically, you can kind of see that's the case, and they've allowed for a huge data exfiltration. So not too great from them. Now, Flynn, what is this LadyBird search engine? What do we know about it?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a, I suppose, valiant idea. It's basically a LadyBird was originally so LadyBird's already a thing. It's a HTML viewer that's basically cross-platform, so it can be used on Linux, Mac OS, I think Windows as well. But what they're trying to do now is they're trying to make a new browser that's completely independent of Chromium, as you said, or any other sort of engines, which is kind of cool because it hasn't been done in a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been done properly in a very long time.
Yes, whoever knows their internet history, the big reason why Google took ahead as fast as it did was because their algorithm and stuff was so superior to everyone else's at the time, and that's kind of, I don't know if it's necessarily the same still, but Google still is obviously the biggest search engine and has the biggest search browsers.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I suppose LadyBird getting on top of this is something very, very interesting. I don't think that Google's going to be going anywhere anytime soon.
No, I'd say not. Just some background information. So the people building this, so it's LadyBird org. I suppose they're some kind of a company. They're a non-profit, and they've said their biggest focuses are, like Flynn said, they want to be truly independent. So no code from other browsers, nothing, reliant on anyone else. They have said that they are completely focused on this web browser. They're not trying to build out any kind of other product. And there's no monetization whatsoever. So no default search deals, no crypto tokens or anything ever is what they've said. There's never going to be a form of monetization. Now, a lot of the times with these kind of, I'd say altruistic kind of companies is at the start, they, beginners, non-for-profits, they have some really glorious mission in mind. And they, they say it's non-for-profit, but, down the road, in order to keep funding it and making sure that, the people who are actually working on it, they can support their families, usually, or even greed takes over. Usually it kind of flips and turns into a for-profit, but, maybe this one will be different. I don't think it will be, but, maybe.
Yeah, so I suppose a big kicker for this one as well is that it's built in C++.
Yep.
That seems to be something that they are pushing for. No third parties, as Max said, sort of stuff like that. Maybe that's a benefit to security. Maybe it's not. I suppose it could add to a free internet aspect of it. Not that the internet is particularly restricted in most places, but I suppose it could help with that places in certain parts of the world.
Yeah, 100%. And so they're aiming for a first alpha release in 2026. So it's still a ways away from being released, but they've got a Discord, they've got, a big website. So, and I'm assuming they probably have a fairly big community at the moment of people that are like-minded and want to, retain their anonymity when searching the web. So, it's an interesting project in the least. Now, are they going to be able to steal market share from, any of the big players? So your, Microsoft Edge, your Google Chromes, your Brave, Ecosia, Tor. I can go on and on. There's so many other web browsers out there. Is it likely to, for them to get their own footholds? It's hard to say. What do you think, Flynn?
The thing about LadyBird is that it's so unique. So a lot of those you'd mentioned, like Edge and stuff, is that they're browsers, but they're still Chromium based.
Yeah.
What LadyBird is doing is so different, I suppose, that it may get its sort of own niche subset of the market, but I don't see it having anything on the front line on Google or anything like that. I don't see that happening. But
yeah, I think the only other one that's big and that isn't Chromium would be Firefox, actually. And, they've had struggles with market share and retaining people for a long time. I remember when I was younger, Firefox was just kind of a joke. Everyone would say how bad it was and how slow it was. These days, it's a lot better. There's people use it because it's less, I guess, surveillance-based than Chrome, as many people would think. It could be, a good option for anyone who wants to give this a taste before, fully jumping on the non-Chromium train. But Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird one. This, like I said, there's so many browsers out there at the moment, so it's hard to, it's hard to sort of say, oh man, is this going to really make a huge difference? Like it's kind of difficult to see.
Yeah, I don't see it taking a big chunk out, but we'll see. Another thing to note that's important is it is macOS and Linux at the moment, which kind of makes sense because they're similar operating systems. I don't think that they have Windows support, or they're aiming for that in 2026. So we'll see, because the Chromium ones are typically Windows machines, whereas your Firefoxes is something you'll find on Linux systems. So maybe that's the thing they're going for.
I mean, I'd be surprised if they didn't add some kind of a port to Windows. Like that's such a big, it's such a big market. Thanks for listening. Just a reminder that the Cyber Minutes podcast is for educational purposes only. The views expressed by hosts and guests are their own, not necessarily their employers. Advice discussed is general advice. We promote ethical discussions, not illegal activities. Have a cybersecurity question? Send an email to cyberminutespodcast@gmail.com, as we'd love to answer it. Stay cyber safe.